The summer was slipping away, and with it, the warm days that had seen Claire Matthews swimming in Lake Pinecrest, laughing with friends and wrestling with feelings she hadn't dared to confront before. The night of the lake, when 5 men, from different chapters of her life came back, was no longer just a memory but a turning point. Now Claire stood at the edge of something new. The choice to open her heart again and decide what love meant for her, not as a promise made in youth, but as a living, breathing part of who she was now. The days leading up to her decision were filled with a gentle tension, a quiet storm brewing beneath the surface. Each of the 5 men continued to hold a place in her life, but the weight of indecision pressed on her like the thick summer heat. She was afraid, not of love itself, but of the vulnerability that came with it. Afraid of making the wrong choice, and afraid of closing the door on a part of herself. One evening, Claire found herself at the old pier once again, the same place where it had all begun. The lake was calm, almost glass-like, reflecting the golden hues of the setting sun. The sky blushed pink and lavender, a perfect backdrop for the storm inside her heart. She sat alone, letting the cool breeze wash over her, thinking about the moments she'd shared with Adam, Derek, Noah, Liam, and Ethan. Each man had given her a gift. The piece of her heart back when it felt shattered. Adam had shown her the thrill of possibility, reminding her that life could still be an adventure, even after heartbreak. His eyes, bright with hope and longing, asked if she was ready to take the leap, to step into a future unknown, hand in hand with someone who understood the weight of dreams. Derek, with his steady kindness and quiet strength, offered her safe harbor. He had been her rock when she needed it most, the one who never asked for more than she could give, but was always ready to give his all. Noah, the poet and dreamer, gave her words when she had none, gently unraveling her doubts with his heartfelt verses. He reminded her that love wasn't perfect. It was messy, beautiful, and sometimes painful. Liam brought lightness and laughter into her life. In his presence, Claire rediscovered joy, the kind that bubbles up unexpectedly and carries you through the hardest days. He showed her that healing could come through connection, even when the past felt heavy. Ethan, the quiet healer, gave her space to be vulnerable without judgment. His calm presence was a soothing balm for a heart battered by loss, and his gentle touch reminded her that love could be quiet and steady, not always loud or dramatic. Claire closed her eyes and breathed deeply. The lake whispered around her, its timeless rhythm matching the pulse of her own heart. She knew she couldn't keep all 5 in the same way. That wasn't fair to them, or to herself. But she also realized the choice wasn't about picking a person to complete her. It was about choosing to be whole. The next few days were a blur of reflection and conversation. Claire met with each man separately, wanting to be honest with herself and with them. With Adam, they talked about fear and freedom, about the courage it took to leap into the unknown, even when your heart trembled. Adam confessed that he had never stopped hoping for a chance with her, but understood if she needed time. With Derek, they shared moments of quiet understanding. No words were necessary when their hands brushed, and Claire felt the comfort of a bond that had grown deeper than she'd ever admitted. With Noah, they spoke of poetry and the meaning of love. He told her that loving someone was not about possession, but about seeing them clearly, flaws, scars and all, and choosing to stay. With Liam, laughter came easy, but so did tears. He shared his own fears of heartbreak, and Claire felt the fragility beneath his light. With Ethan, she found peace in silence. His steady gaze told her that sometimes love was about presence, not perfection. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in fiery reds and soft purples, Claire gathered all 5 men by the lake once more. She looked at each face, familiar, kind, and full of hope, and realized how much they had taught her. Not just about love, but about herself. She spoke softly, her voice steady but filled with emotion. I came here searching for peace, for freedom, and I found all of you. Each of you has given me something I thought was lost. Hope, laughter, safety, courage, and kindness. I am grateful. She paused, swallowing the lump in her throat. But I also realized that my heart is not a puzzle to be solved by choosing one piece over another. It's a journey I need to walk on my own, even if you are all part of it. The men listened, their faces a mixture of understanding and something deeper. Acceptance. Claire continued. I need time to heal fully, to find who I am now, not just who I was. And maybe, when the time is right, love will find its way to me again, whether that's with one of you or someone new. There was a hush as the words settled in the cool night air. Adam reached out and took her hand gently. I'm here. Whatever you decide. Derek nodded, eyes steady and warm. Always. Noah smiled softly. Love is patient. Liam laughed. Quietly, and a little wild. Ethan's calm voice said simply, take all the time you need. Claire felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. A beginning of self-love and patience. A promise to herself that she would never again rush the heart's quiet truths. In the weeks that followed, Claire spent more time by the lake, sometimes alone, sometimes with friends, sometimes with the men who had touched her life in profound ways. She wrote in her journal, walked the shore, and let the water remind her that healing was a process, not a destination. She was learning to trust herself again. To honor every feeling, the joy, the sorrow, the hope, and the fear. And slowly, she felt the old wounds start to close, replaced by a quiet strength. The story of Claire and the 5 men was not about fairy tale endings or perfect love. It was about the complexity of human hearts. About how sometimes love is about letting go, not of people, but of expectations. About how the bravest thing we can do is to keep opening our hearts, even when we don't know where it will lead. Reflection Part 4 is the culmination of Claire's emotional journey. It's mature, gentle, and realistic, honoring the complexity of love and heartbreak without rushing to a neat resolution. Claire's choice to embrace healing, self-love, and patience feels true to her growth. The 5 men are not just love interests. They are mirrors, reflecting different parts of her soul, each contributing to her journey toward wholeness. This ending feels like it belongs on a heartfelt romantic storytelling channel, inviting listeners to reflect on. But it was confusing too. How could one person hold so many pieces of a heart that seemed so scattered? As the fire dwindled, Claire found herself alone for a moment, staring at the stars reflected in the lake. The night was quiet except for the soft crackling of the last embers. She whispered to herself, what if I wasn't meant to choose just one? Her thoughts raced. She wasn't sure if she wanted to pick a path, or if she just wanted to understand what her heart was trying to tell her. The 5 men returned, each offering a look. Some gentle, some hopeful, some uncertain. They weren't here to fight over her, Claire realized. They were here because, in some way, they still cared. Because her story was a part of theirs. And maybe, just maybe, this night was a chance to rewrite parts of it. But could she trust herself to open her heart again? Could she risk heartbreak when she was only just beginning to heal? The night ended without answers, but with an unspoken promise. 5 men, 1 heart, and a journey that was just beginning. The days after that night at the lake were some of the most confusing and alive Claire Matthews had ever experienced. She found herself caught between old memories and new emotions, her heart feeling like a compass spinning wildly without a clear direction. Every morning, she woke up with the taste of the lake on her lips and the echo of laughter still ringing in her ears. The 5 men, Adam, Derek, Noah, Liam, and Ethan, each held a piece of her past, a fragment of a story that had shaped her, and now they seemed to be part of a new chapter she hadn't expected. Claire's mind was a storm of questions. How could she feel so connected to 5 different men at once? Was this a second chance? Or was it simply a reflection of how much she had changed, and how much she needed to find herself again? She couldn't deny the pull each one had on her. Adam, the Navy veteran, was a reminder of the adventurous girl she once was. His steady strength, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her, made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt for years. Adam had once been a boy with dreams as wide as the ocean, and now he was a man who had seen the world but still carried a longing in his heart. He invited Claire to a Navy fundraiser in town, an event filled with music, old friends, and new faces. When he said, "You always wanted more than this town. Maybe we leave together this time." Claire felt a flicker of hope mixed with fear. Could she start over? Could she leave behind everything she knew and chase a life full of possibility with someone who understood the thrill of the unknown? Derek was different. He was the anchor in her turbulent sea. When her fence broke after a fierce summer storm, Derek showed up with tools and steady hands. They worked side by side, fixing the broken boards and talking quietly about the things they hadn't said years ago. He didn't demand answers or apologies. He simply showed up, reliable and patient. Derek's presence was a reminder that love didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered. He was the safe harbor she hadn't realized. She still longed for. Noah, the poet, sent Claire a letter one morning. It wasn't a text or a call, but a folded piece of paper slipped through her front door. Inside was a poem he'd written just for her. You swim like you're running from something, but maybe you're swimming towards something too. Reading his words, Claire felt tears prick her eyes. Noah had always known her heart better than she knew herself. His quiet, thoughtful presence was a balm to her restless soul. He didn't ask for anything, but his words invited her to explore the depths of her feelings, to dive into the parts of herself she'd been afraid to face. Liam was the light in the darkness. When Claire was overwhelmed by the weight of everything, Liam showed up with a joke or a goofy grin, pulling her out of her own head and into moments of pure joy. He confessed quietly that he was going through a divorce too, and that laughter was the only thing keeping him afloat. With Liam, Claire rediscovered the healing power of laughter and friendship. He reminded her that even in heartbreak, there was room for happiness, sometimes in the simplest moments. Ethan, the quiet doctor, was the calm she didn't know she needed. His steady presence was a grounding force. Sometimes they met just to share a cup of coffee, sitting in comfortable silence, allowing their unspoken feelings to exist without pressure. Ethan never rushed Claire. He gave her space to breathe and heal. With him, she felt safe to be vulnerable without fear of being judged or rushed. But as much as Claire treasured each of these men, she felt torn. How could one heart hold so many loves? She knew she couldn't pretend to be the person she once was, the young girl who thought love was simple and forever. Now, love was complicated, layered with years of joy and pain, hope and fear. Every moment she spent with one of the men stirred memories she thought she'd buried, When Adam's hand brushed hers, she remembered their teenage dreams of escaping Pinecrest. When Derek's quiet smile caught her eye, she saw the man who had always wanted to protect her from harm. Noah's poetry unlocked feelings she'd hidden deep inside. Liam's laughter chased away the shadows. Ethan's calm steadied the chaos inside her. Each of them represented a path she could take, a different version of love and life. One evening, Claire found herself at the lake again, alone. The water was dark and still, reflecting the stars scattered across the sky. She sat on the dock, her legs dangling over the edge, and let the silence wrap around her. She whispered into the night, "What if I don't have to choose just one?" Her heart was aching but hopeful, because maybe love wasn't about choosing between people. Maybe it was about choosing to love fully, even when it was messy and confusing. Maybe it was about embracing every part of herself, the part that longed for adventure, the part that craved safety, the part that wanted to dream and laugh and heal. Claire realized that her heart wasn't broken. It was whole but stretched in many directions. And maybe that was okay. In the days that followed, the 5 men continued to reach out, not as rivals but as parts of her story. Adam called her to tell stories about the ocean and distant places, reminding her that the world was bigger than Pinecrest. Derek stopped by with coffee and quiet smiles, offering steady companionship without demands. No, sent more poems, little love letters that spoke of healing and courage. Liam invited her to small gatherings filled with laughter and music, where they could forget the past and just be. Ethan checked in regularly, a calm voice in the storm of her emotions. Claire's friends noticed a change in her. She laughed more, moved with a new grace, and spoke about dreams she thought she'd lost. But inside, the struggle continued. She was afraid to open her heart fully, afraid to hurt again, afraid to lose herself in love. One afternoon, as she sat with her journal by the lake, she wrote, "I don't know what comes next, but I'm ready to find out, to love, to live, to be brave. Maybe my heart is big enough for all of this, for all of them, and for me." That night, as the fire pit burned low, Claire looked around at the men who had become her unexpected companions. They were no longer just memories or shadows of the past. They were real, present, caring, and she was no longer afraid. Reflection Part 3 is about Claire's emotional journey, the moments of quiet reflection, the weight of complicated feelings, and the first steps toward healing. It explores the idea that love doesn't always fit into neat boxes. Sometimes it's a tapestry woven with different threads, each one beautiful and necessary. Claire's story is about rediscovery of herself, her heart, and the many forms love can take. She hasn't found all the answers yet, but she's ready to listen to her heart, wherever it leads. Claire Matthews stood alone at the edge of Lake Pinecrest, as the sun dipped low in the sky, painting everything around her in warm shades of orange and pink. The air was soft and still, filled with the gentle sounds of water lapping against the shore and the distant calls of birds settling in for the evening. Her bare feet sank slightly into the cool mud, the feeling grounding her in a way that nothing else had for weeks. For Claire, this lake had always been a refuge, a place she could go when the noise of the world, or her own thoughts, felt too heavy. But tonight, the calm surface of the water reflected something deeper inside her. A longing for peace, for escape, for something that felt like freedom. It had been 2 months since her divorce was finalized. 2 months since she had walked away from a marriage that had once been full of hope, but ended tangled in silence, disappointment, and heartbreak. The man she had promised forever to Josh was now a stranger, and their shared home was empty except for memories she wasn't ready to face. Claire didn't come here tonight to run from her pain. She came to float above it, To let the water carry her, if only for a little while. She kicked off her shoes, slipped out of her cardigan, and stepped into the lake. The water was cool but welcoming, embracing her legs as she walked deeper. She could feel the tension in her muscles begin to ease with every step, the familiar sensation of swimming washing over her like a balm. The lake was peaceful, the kind of silence that wasn't empty, but full of possibility, full of the quiet answers she'd been searching for. Claire took a deep breath, then dove beneath the surface. The world blurred into bubbles and soft currents. For a moment, everything she'd felt, the loneliness, the fear, the grief, all floated away. When she resurfaced, she spotted something on the far end of the dock. A figure. A man. Standing still, watching her. Her heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected anyone else to be here. The man's silhouette was familiar. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that kind of quiet strength she recognized from years ago. Adam Quinn. Adam had been her first crush in high school. The boy who was always kind, always brave, and then suddenly gone when he left town to join the Navy. Claire hadn't seen him since graduation, and yet here he was, standing on the dock, looking like time hadn't changed him much. "Hey," he called softly. "Are you okay?" Claire swallowed hard, suddenly self-conscious. She had come to the lake to find peace, not to be caught like a secret. "Yeah," she said, her voice steady but quiet. "Just needed a swim." Adam smiled, a warmth spreading across his face that made Claire's chest tighten. "Good," he said. "It's been a while since I've seen you around." They talked briefly about old memories, about what had changed in the years since they last met. It was strange, comforting even, to reconnect with someone who knew her younger self, the girl who dreamed of adventure and wasn't yet weighed down by loss. But then the quiet night was broken by laughter. Voices, 5 voices, drifting across the lake, growing louder as they approached. Claire looked toward the path leading down to the water and saw them. 4 more men walking toward the dock. Her breath caught. There was Derek, the steady one, her ex-husband's best friend, the one who had warned her about Josh before she got married, but who she'd never listened to. He had aged like a strong oak tree, his presence solid and reassuring. Noah was next, the poet, the one who had once left her anonymous love notes in her locker during high school, sending her secret messages about hope and longing. His beard was new, but his eyes still held that familiar softness, that gentle intensity. Then Liam, the funny one, the life of every party, always quick with a joke, but also quick to notice when Claire needed a friend. He had been her confidant during some of her darkest times, even if it was just through laughter. And last, Ethan, the quiet doctor who had once helped her after she sprained her ankle on a hike. He was calm, kind, the kind of man who never demanded attention but gave it all the same. Claire's heart pounded as the 5 men gathered around her. 5 men who had, in different ways, been part of her life. 5 men who had loved her, or tried to, before her world shifted. Didn't come together by accident. Claire realized that now. She was stunned, feeling exposed and strangely alive all at once. They invited her to sit by the fire pit just beyond the dock, where the flames flickered softly against the growing darkness. For hours, they talked, shared memories, told stories, laughed, and sometimes fell silent. Claire felt her walls begin to crumble. There was Adam's steady gaze, filled with unspoken things. Derek's quiet strength, a reminder she hadn't known she still needed. Noah's words, gentle and poetic, weaving through her thoughts. Liam's easy laughter that felt like a lifeline, and Ethan's calming presence that made her feel safe. Each man stirred something inside her. A memory, a hope, a question she hadn't dared ask Dot and Claire. She was caught between wanting to dive into the past and a fear of what it might mean. Her heart was a storm of emotion, longing and hesitation, warmth and doubt, because she had gone for a swim to find herself. But now, she wondered if she might be losing herself all over again. Claire's heart raced as she climbed out of the lake and wrapped Adam's towel around her shoulders. The cool night air made her shiver, but it wasn't just the temperature. It was the weight of everything happening. Old memories, new possibilities, and a feeling she hadn't expected at all. Adam stood close by, his eyes steady on hers. He looked like the boy she once dreamed about, but also like a man who had faced his own battles, the kind that left invisible scars. The years had added a quiet confidence to him, a softness behind his strong features that made Claire's breath catch. "You disappeared," Adam said softly, a hint of sadness in his voice. "After high school. I never thought I'd see you again." Claire looked down, suddenly unsure how to explain her life's twists and turns. "I got married. Then. It didn't work out." She didn't mention the nights spent crying alone, the empty house, or the way her dreams had faded under the weight of expectations. Adam didn't press. Instead, he gave a small smile and said, "I'm sorry." Before Claire could answer, voices broke the quiet. One by one, 4 other men approached, their familiar faces filling the space around, the dock like pieces of a puzzle she hadn't realized were missing. Derek was the first to arrive, tall, solid, and steady. The man she had once resisted but who had always cared. Derek had been her ex-husband's best friend, the one who warned her about Josh's flaws before she said, "I do." She remembered his kindness and how she'd pushed it away in her. Desperate hope to believe in love. "Claire," Derek said quietly, not demanding anything, just being present. His eyes were gentle but full of unsaid things. Next was Noah, the poet, who had once sent her secret notes filled with hope and longing when they were teenagers. He looked older, with a beard framing his thoughtful face. Noah's presence felt like a warm melody, quiet, reflective, and full of things that needed saying. Then came Liam, the funny, bright soul who could make anyone laugh even on the darkest day. Liam's easy smile was the kind of light Claire hadn't realized she needed. When he pulled her into a hug, she felt a sudden rush of comfort and relief. Finally, Ethan, the quiet doctor who had once cared for her after a hiking accident. Ethan's calm, steady gaze was a balm for her restless heart. There was something safe and unwavering about him that made Claire feel protected. The 5 men, each from different parts of her life, stood around her. The lake's soft ripples reflected the moonlight, but Claire's mind was spinning with questions she wasn't ready to ask. Why were they here? What did this mean? The night stretched on as they settled around the fire pit near the shore. The warmth of the flames mingled with the warmth growing inside Claire's chest, a strange mix of old feelings and new hopes. They talked, not just about the past, but about everything in between. About where life had taken them, what they did, lost, and what they still dreamed of. Adam spoke about his time in the Navy, the places he'd seen, and the loneliness he'd felt away from home. He confessed how he'd thought about Claire often, wondering where life had taken her. Derek listened more than he spoke, but when he did, his words were steady and true. He talked about loyalty, friendship, and the pain of watching someone you care for make mistakes. Mistakes you wish you could fix, but can. Noah recited a poem he'd written recently. It was about swimming, about diving deep into the unknown, about the risk of opening your heart to the past while moving forward. Liam joked about their teenage adventures, the parties, the secrets, and the mistakes. His laughter was infectious, and soon Claire found herself smiling more than she had in months. Ethan shared stories from his work as a doctor, moments of healing, moments of heartbreak, and the quiet strength it took to keep going. Throughout the night, Claire felt herself pulled in many directions. Adam reminded her of the life she once wanted, full of adventure, escape, and new beginnings. Derek was the anchor, the steady presence she didn't know she needed, but couldn't deny. Noah stirred something deep inside her, a reminder of dreams and feelings she thought were long gone. Liam was the joy, the laughter, and the light that made her forget her pain, if only for a moment. Ethan was the calm, the safety, and the kindness that made her feel understood. Claire's heart was full of sparks, each man igniting a different part of her.